調子に乗るな、加藤氏。
Hi guys, welcome back, AnimeScale here, and it's finally time. Today I bring you my personal top 20 strongest characters appearing in Boruto so far. So before starting off with the list, I want to make clear that I did not include the retired Kage like Mei, A and Tsunade, since they have no feats after the war arc. No hypothetical versions we know almost nothing about as well, like post-time skip Boruto and Kawaki, and also Ada and Damon. The cyborgs that appeared in the latest chapters of the manga are not making it into this list since they just appeared, and I want to take a bit more time to give them a proper scaling. One last thing for the usual viewers, you will see some power levels adjustments in this video, and this was done to make the power scale more consistent. So now let's start off with number 20. In Boruto, Sakura doesn't really have all that many showings, which is why she's at the very end of this list. Sakura's strengths are all mostly about her medical ninjutsu, with her having learned directly from one of the best medical ninja ever. Still, besides just that, Sakura has also inherited Tsunade's absurd physical strength. One punch from Sakura was enough to break one of Kaguya's horns. Just the fact that she could even damage such a godlike being puts her on this list. Sakura can only use 100 healings technique, a form in which she's much stronger. The only reason she's as low as she is thanks to us not really seeing a whole lot from her in Boruto. So we can't say if she's gotten stronger or weaker. The 100 healing technique, for instance, requires storing up chakra for years before using it all in one fight. And Sakura hasn't used this technique so far. Moving on, we have the 5th Hokage. Darui is one of the few characters in the show with a completely unique ability, Black Lightning. More than that though, just about all of Darui's feats involve him sealing or restraining really strong ninja, and in Boruto, well, we don't have many feats for him outside of his fight against Momoshiki. In that fight, he put up a much better showing than most of the other Kage. He was able to momentarily go toe-to-toe with base Momoshiki and was even capable of momentarily restraining him. This alone is enough to make him one of the strongest out of the current Kage. Shin is basically a clone made by Orochimaru with one important ability. You can transplant just about anything in him without fear of rejection or any side effects. As such, knowing Orochimaru, sooner or later Shin did end up getting implanted with a whole host of Sharingan. Shin only really comes into the story when he ends up kidnapping Sarada to try to get Sasuke. During his fights in Boruto, he has a few feats that make him worth putting on this list. Besides the obvious Sharingan implanted in him, giving him all the abilities we're used to, he also has extreme control over ninja tools and weapons, to the point where he can control them with telekinesis. He is one of the few people who we see survive a direct hit from Sakura, which, as we discussed, is no joke. Shin was also able to at least keep up with Sasuke for a little while. Admittedly, this was a Sasuke that wasn't at his best and going all out. But even not instantly dying to that version of Sasuke is enough to put him here. Pretty much since the start of the series, Kakashi was the bar for what a strong ninja is supposed to be. Talking about Kakashi is especially interesting because he's so different in Boruto. Kakashi obviously doesn't have his Sharingan and all of its abilities anymore. So one would think that Kakashi would be a lot weaker in this state, but it actually seems the opposite. We barely ever see Kakashi in Boruto, so all the information we do have from this time period is from the novels. And in the novels, it's pretty much flat out said that he's stronger now than he was during the war arc. As for actual feats, Kakashi has learned a new jutsu called the Purple Lightning to replace the Chidori he can't use without his Sharingan anymore. Unfortunately, we can't put him any higher on this list until we see more direct fights from him. It's safe to say he can be higher or lower on this list based on any new information that comes up. Ku is pretty much meant to be a clone of Onoki, the same way Mitsuki was supposed to be a partial clone of Orochimaru. In Boruto, we see a lot more of Ku, and that lets us rank him properly. The most important thing to remember is that Ku can use Dust Release, which is probably one of the strongest jutsu in the entire series. Seriously, the only two who managed to ever shrug this off are Obito and Madara. And one had the most broken Sharingan ability in the entire series, and the other a Rinnegan to absorb it. The guy can fly, create rock golems, and he's also quite good with the sword. Besides that, we even saw him fight with Kuretsuchi, though calling this a fight is a bit of a joke. Even trying her absolute hardest, the new Tsuchikage was having trouble landing a single hit on Ku. Being able to toy with a Kage-level opponents like that more than earns Lord Ku a place on this list. Boro is one of the inner members of Gaara, and for good reason. He is massive and is one of the physically strongest characters in the entire show. He can also use 3 different chakra natures, not something just anyone can do. Still, fighting Boro is something you only get to do if you can survive his dark mist, a deadly poison he emits around him. Boro alone was more than capable of toying with the entirety of the new Team 7 and Kawaki. The few times they did manage to land anything on him, they were in for a rude surprise. Boro's whole body has been modified with scientific ninja tools, and this gives him absurd regeneration abilities. Boro can pretty much regrow entire limbs at the drop of a hat thanks to the core inside his body. Even when Sarada managed to break that core, Boro was still a threat, and it took someone many times stronger than him to finally put him down. Gaara has pretty much always been one of the strongest characters in the ninja world. Not much of this changes in Boruto, as he's probably the strongest Kage right after Naruto himself. The reason why we can definitively say Gaara is one of the strongest Kage is because he easily had the best showing against Momoshiki. Not only was Gaara keeping up with Momoshiki when he was fused, he even managed to block a few direct blows from fused Momoshiki. Fused Momoshiki is a near godlike being, and none of the other Kage could so much as react to him. While the gap between him and Naruto is gigantic, it's safe to say Gaara is on another level when it comes to all the other Kage in Boruto. Orochimaru is a legendary character in the ninja world. He's the strongest of the Sannin, 3 shinobi, all of who are more than strong enough to be Kage in their own right. We don't really have too many feats for Orochimaru in Boruto outside of him easily handling Victor. Orochimaru is a genius ninja who at one point was even competing with the likes of Minato to become the 4th Hokage. Outside the mountains of rare jutsu and techniques he has from all his research, he has one of the strongest abilities out there, Impure World Reincarnation. And who knows, he might surprise us with some unexpected Edo Tensei summons in the future. Delta is easily one of the strongest members of Gaara and was our first hint in Boruto that this wasn't just any old organization. Pretty much every part of Delta has been modified with some type of ninja tool. She can absorb any and all ninjutsu thrown her way and then send it right back to you. What's more dangerous than that, though, is her destruction beam. This beam doesn't pack a ridiculous amount of raw power, but it's designed to overcome just about any regenerative ability in existence. Even Naruto had to be wary of this one. Speaking of Naruto, Delta was more than capable of keeping up with the Hokage for an extended period of time. Naruto wasn't nearly going all out in this fight, and she did inevitably lose, but there are only a handful of people who can say they even had Naruto on the ropes. Kashin Koji is a clone of Jiraiya made by Amado, all for his plan to one day kill Jigen. As a clone of one of the legendary Sannin, Koji is at least as strong as Jiraiya himself was, who is stated to only be a little weaker than Orochimaru. Koji, however, is much stronger than Jiraiya ever was, and that's why he earns this high spot on the list. He can use every single one of Jiraiya's jutsu, including the summoning technique. Unlike Jiraiya, Koji can even use the perfect Sage mode with none of the difficulty that Jiraiya seemed to have. In just about everything, Koji is an even stronger version of the pervy Sage. Koji even did succeed in his mission of killing Jigen. Even if this was a Jigen completely exhausted from his fight against Naruto and Sasuke, still, all of his feats earn his place right here. Up to 10, Boroshiki is the form Boruto takes when Momoshiki ends up possessing his body. In this form, Momoshiki is able to access a sizable chunk of the power he held when he was free. He is still constrained by the physical limits of being inside someone else's body, but he is still monstrously strong. In this form, Boroshiki effortlessly destroyed Boro, who Team 7 just wasn't able to beat, despite throwing everything they had at him. Boroshiki is able to absorb and use other people's chakra, just like an Otsutsuki would. Moreover, in this form, it seems that Momoshiki can use other people's techniques, such as him creating a gigantic Rasengan to destroy Boro. As this is still an incomplete transformation, Boroshiki does not really place above any of the other Otsutsuki members, but he's still miles above just about everyone else. Urashiki is one of the Otsutsuki that came alongside Momoshiki and Kinshiki. Just the fact that he is from that clan almost instantly puts him far above any normal character in the show. We can pretty safely say from everything we've seen that he ranks a fair bit below both Kinshiki and Momoshiki, but he's still absurdly strong. He was able to keep up with Sasuke and even had the upper hand. This was a weaker Sasuke after he had gotten much of his chakra drained, but only a godlike being could do even that. Besides that, Orochimaru was able to toy with both Gaara and the Misakage at once. He seemed almost bored. Unfortunately, there are a few odd things in the anime that keep him from being ranked even higher than this, such as him somehow having a hard time dealing with Boruto or Kid Naruto, but he is still a formidable foe. Isshiki is an Otsutsuki, which more or less automatically puts him on a tier of his own. Isshiki is also one of the few people we ever see able to keep up with adult Sasuke. Adult Sasuke is a godlike shinobi, even stronger than his younger self, and Isshiki was able to handle him. More than that, he was even keeping up with many of the current Kage, all targeting him at the same time. Isshiki was able to easily shrug off everything that the new Kage did, showing that he was on a different level. Unfortunately, in a completely even fight, Isshiki would have lost to adult Sasuke, and he has been stated to still be weaker than Momoshiki, thus earning him this spot on the list. We all knew Sasuke would have a pretty high up place on this list, and here he is. Adult Sasuke is, if anything, much stronger than he was even in the war arc. For one thing, Sasuke has only gotten better at using his Rinnegan, and now it's a key part of his fighting style and will never get old. Adult Sasuke has only shown numerous times that he can keep up and even handle many of the Otsutsuki characters. The age-old question is this though, is Adult Sasuke stronger than Naruto? I'd have to say no. In their final fight at the Valley of the End, Sasuke was only able to match Naruto because he absorbed all the chakra from every tailed beast. Adult Sasuke does not have access to that power, while Naruto still has just as much chakra as he always did. Even without his new form, Naruto is still a force to be reckoned with. Out of all the human characters, there is no one with as much chakra as Naruto does. Naruto can go on fighting long past the point where anyone else can. Even as a teenager, Naruto could summon thousands of shadow clones, something that no one else has been able to do. Naruto has access to all the techniques we've seen him grow up with, such as Kurama's chakra cloak or Sage Mode. He's only gotten better at everything he's mastered over the years. As an adult, he's gotten so much stronger with more mastery over all of his techniques, as well as the powers given to him by the Sage of the Six Paths. Alongside Sasuke, Naruto is the only human who is really able to put up a fight against the Otsutsukis, and hence gets a really high place on this list. Momoshiki is by quite a wide margin the strongest Otsutsuki that came to Earth following Kaguya. His feats are many, so we should just get started with the most impressive of them. Momoshiki was able to fight off against both Sasuke and Naruto at the same time, while giving them a run for their money. On their own, Momoshiki was easily strong enough to kill either. It only took the two of them fighting their hardest and being in perfect sync to finally start toying with him. Both of his right hands have the Rinnegan, which allows him to absorb any and all ninjutsu. That means that the only real way to fight him was either to be able to take him by surprise or use only taijutsu. Even in the end, when it took everything, everyone had to defeat him, Momoshiki still managed to plant a karma inside Boruto, thus still staying alive. If Naruto and Sasuke working together was strong enough to toy with Momoshiki, then together they could only barely not die fighting against Jigen. Jigen is a whole other league, able to instantly handle anything the pair could throw at him. He has many feats. He was strong enough to easily pierce Sasuke's perfect Susanoo, and was more than fast enough to keep up with Naruto when he wasn't holding anything back. He also possesses one of the strongest jutsus we've seen yet, the ability to shrink himself or his weapons at a glance. Using this, Jigen was able to dance circles around both Sasuke and Naruto before knocking one unconscious and forcing the other to retreat. It should be kept in mind that Jigen is basically just Isshiki Otsutsuki, acting out through a mortal body, which should give a hint about who will come up later. Code is likely the strongest member of Gaara, and for good reason. Code is in fact so strong that it has been stated he was stronger than Jigen himself. It is only due to his extreme loyalty to Jigen that he's allowed to live. Code willingly put on limiters on his own body so that he would be less threatening to his leader. Code is another vessel of Isshiki, someone who was much more compatible with his power than Jigen himself was. Still, Code was not compatible enough to directly house Isshiki's soul, and as a result, his karma is white. It has been stated that his karma contains within it a huge portion of Ishiki's power, even if it can't house his soul. Code will doubtless be able to use more and more of this strength as time passes. Even right now, he feels like he can easily take out Naruto and Sasuke if it comes down to it. As it stands, he's the strongest character in the Naruto world right now. This is a temporary power boost that Naruto got during his fight against Isshiki. It was a form so powerful that it required Kurama to sacrifice himself to give Naruto a strength boost that still didn't last very long. In this form, Naruto was finally a match for Isshiki and was even keeping up with him. He could even keep up with all the high-speed objects Isshiki could shrink and send his way, something only Sasuke could barely keep up with thanks to his Rinnegan. It should be noted that this form is still weaker than Isshiki himself, as many of his blows did not seem to hurt the Otsutsuki that much. What it does do, however, is shorten the lifespan of any being it comes into contact with. This was especially important in this fight, as Naruto was able to decrease Isshiki's lifespan from a day to less than half an hour. This was the strongest Naruto has ever been, and likely will ever be. At the number 1 spot, finally, Isshiki Otsutsuki is almost without a doubt the strongest character that has ever set foot on the planet. He was even stated as being far stronger than Kaguya herself was, and he was a much higher ranking member of the Otsutsuki clan. Isshiki is able to toy around with Naruto and Sasuke, trying their best. Their fight is far more one-sided than it was when Isshiki was still trying to preserve Jigen's body in their earlier fight, indicating that he is much stronger. Every single one of his abilities is enhanced several times over, to the point where no one can keep up with him anymore. Just about anything Isshiki sees, he can shrink down before they can be a threat to him. Even Koji, who had prepared extensively to take on Jigen, could do nothing when Isshiki finally shows himself. There is absolutely nothing that anybody could do against him, and their whole fight boiled down to Naruto and Sasuke trying to completely buy whatever time they could from the monster. Even this form most likely pales in comparison to Isshiki in his prime, as his current body was dying by the second. This would definitely point to Isshiki Otsutsuki being at the very top of the Boruto power level for a very long time to come. So there we go, guys. Thank you for sticking all the way to the end of this video. Do you agree with this list? Be sure to let me know in the comment sections below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. This is AnimeScale out. Bye.